And we are live. Welcome to Lakbay ng Buhay. Let's start with the Philippine National Anthem. Okay.
Walang sound dyan.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Hello. Hello? Do we have sound dyan? Do we have audio?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Well, anyway, we're now on our second episode of Lakbay ng Buhay. Again, as always, we always feature mga success achievers in their own fields. Now, we're lucky to have with us today isang Pinoy din ito na who made his mark in the United Arab Emirates in the field of education. So again, I would let my partner John introduce our guest today because they're classmates in high school. Okay, John, can you introduce her? John, walang audio.
Nag-mute, sorry. I would like to introduce a former classmate from an island, the third largest island in the Philippines, Samar. I'm very glad to introduce someone who has done very well and is very influential in his field of work, and actually is recognized globally already. It's very nice to hear. He's a digital faculty consultant of Buhay Education for Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. He's had so many awards, like the Bayani Award by the Philippine Consulate in UAE. He's been invited to several speaking engagement, like the United Nations and Heartfulness Organization. He's been profiled with students and even got viral with with one of the students singing in his class, and I think you launched his career as a singer.
Oh,
He's
really?
been awarded as the Educator Innovator of the Year in September 2019, and it's very long. There's so many things, but we've got a very wonderful speaker today, in the name of Dr. Rex Bacarra. Welcome, Rex.
Thank you very much.
Rex.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you very much, Chito. Sir Chito.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, at least with the long list of distinctions that you have already received, I'd like to ask you one thing, Dr. Rex. What's the dream?
What's the dream? Two things here. In terms of excellence, I want to pursue, you know, excellence. That has always been
Hmm.
my dream, not for any other reason, but basically for the service of Filipinos, not just for
Hmm.
Filipinos, but other, other nationalities as well. But
Okay.
materially, in terms of my idealism, my dream is to put up a university here in the UAE for Filipinos.
Wow.
So, I mean, with all the distinctions that you've already received, the recognitions internationally, aren't you there yet? Is there an even bigger dream than what you just explained earlier?
Awards are basically, I call them a blur. I call them as a fog. They, they
All
don't
right.
last. They recognize, the awards are basically recognitions for what you do, and somehow, people admire you precisely because of those awards. But people don't really see what happened underneath or even before I received those
Hmm.
awards,
Oh,
and
really?
that is why generally they don't confuse me in terms of what I want to have and what I want to be in my life or what I want to
Hmm.
do. And
Okay.
for me, awards, they don't serve as my inspiration.
Hmm.
They come precisely because I'm being recognized for things that I do, but the awards, they're not my motivation. If they are there, then it's fine. If they are not there, then it's fine as well.
Correct. And you probably have a lot of kabayans who would ask you the common thing that you see in social media: how to be you, sir. Di ba? But what they see is you now, who you are now, what
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
achieved. You
Okay.
are there now. But you share with us your journey, how you became
Hmm.
you, because
Yeah.
that's where we get the learnings, and our listeners would be able to learn from what you've experienced, because they probably are in the point where you were a few years ago, and it would help how you tackled the situation or the obstacles or the challenges. That would be
Hmm.
nice.
True, true, true. Uh, it actually, as men, may kababayan, and also not just kababayan, pero we basically hail from Catbalogan, John. And
Yeah.
so it all started in Catbalogan Samar, basically an impoverished place. And, impoverished, yes, but I had a very happy childhood there. I don't exactly remember the details, but my mom died when I was 6. And moments before she died, she told me something that, if I remember correctly, Rex, just be happy. Of course, I didn't understand her at that time. She was dying, I was crying,
Yeah.
and I was just so confused.
Hmm.
To be honest about it, I'm still even until now, I'm a provincial boy. And as I mentioned, I grew up in Samar. My family is rich. In fact, it's a poor family. My father did everything for us to survive. He was teacher, a barrio teacher. There was a barrio, I don't know if John is familiar with this, but there is a malubago, okay, basically where my father was teaching there. He wasn't really bright by today's standards. He was assigned in one of those far-flung barrios, and he needed to, if I remember it correctly again, to walk 5 kilometers every day just to reach the school with, of course, a meager salary. But he was and still is the best father for me. And what he lacked
Hmm.
intelligently, he made up with hard work. His
Hmm.
love for us basically loomed large, and he loved trees. And the whole town now is basically beautifully covered with trees,
Uh-huh.
precisely because of my father. But this is just me trying to remember what my father did. But I graduated at 19. It all started there at Sacred Heart College, again in Catbalogan. And right after graduation, I left summer. I was young, I was unthinking, I
Mhm.
was very rushed. All I did was basically dive. I plunged head on.
Mhm.
And all I wanted was to see what's in there, what's in Manila. Now, my
So what
Mhm.
was
sister,
the dream then? So at that point in time, you had a dream. What was the dream like at that time?
no, it changed because I wanted to be a lawyer at that time. But since we didn't have money, it changed into something else. But
Mhm.
you know what I realized? I, at least in my experience now, you don't need to be fixated with that dream.
Mhm.
Sometimes your dream can change. I think what is more important is you are open to opportunities.
Mhm.
Recognize your skill, okay, your talent, the God-given talent. Make sure that you nurture that talent in an excellent way, and that recognition will lead you to what I always say, your purpose in life.
Yeah.
Kaya nga, ang
So
sabi ko palagi, yes, sir.
when you were in Manila, when you say you dove, actually, you had that leap of faith. So what
Sure.
was your most challenging moments in Manila?
When I went to Manila, I didn't find a job. I was trying to find a job at that time. And probably from the perspective of the employers, I came across as basically naive. I came across as
Mhm.
shy. I was provincial. I couldn't really speak. Yeah, you know how it is when you came from somewhere.
Yeah, I
You
know, I know.
really, with a thick waray accent. When I would probably pronounce, I usually say this as an example. When I would pronounce chinelas as chinilas, and really thick accent. That was me at that time. And I remember one moment when I had a part-time job selling, glass cleaners. At that time, I
Mm.
went from one house to another. I couldn't sell. I was just a Warainon who couldn't even pronounce Tagalog words properly. And I remember going to a rich relative of mine in Laguna, Pasita Complex, and I tried my best to convince her to buy the glass cleaner. She told me that I needed to show to her first that it was a really very effective glass cleaner. So she
Okay.
asked me to basically wipe and clean the huge glass panels and windows of her huge house. She was a rich mother at that time, because I would like to think the father was in Saudi, the husband was in Saudi. Now, I did my best and sweated a lot trying to prove that basically it was the best glass cleaner.
Mhm. Mhm.
But of
Yeah.
course, in the end, she didn't buy. And as I say, that was now that's a fond memory, precisely because that served as a fulcrum, as a jump start to what I always considered the sunset of my life. At that time also, I felt awkward talking, being with my sister, who was also working and studying, aside from having a family of her own, because she married early. And to be
Uh-huh.
fair, by the way, to my sister, she took really good care of me, to the point of even sacrificing herself and allowing certain conditions just to provide for me. You know what? The next thing that I did, I left that house of my sister.
Uh-huh.
Again, I wasn't thinking. My decision was based on feelings. I wasn't rational. I didn't even think, at that time where to go. So as I said, that was the beginning of a series of sunsets with probably a bag, just one bag, and a little money. I went around Metro Manila at dusk, and this was my experience, my very first experience. I ended up in Luneta. I thought of
Mhm.
sleeping there. I saw a group of boys around my age, probably, and one of them approached me and offered me a Pepsi, in a plastic. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen one. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he was being nice, and I thought that, hey, this guy's so nice. I drank it, I got it, drank it, and I got dizzy. Okay, and then I fell asleep, and I woke up the following day because there was like a heavy banging on the door, and a man was shouting, telling me that I already extended my time, and I couldn't make sense of where I was. I didn't even know why I was in the room, and all I remember was that I was in Luneta, and I was feeling groggy. I opened the door
Uh-huh.
and went
So,
out, apologizing to the man, even, okay, trying to make sense really of what happened. I realized that my bag was gone. I was a victim of the Ativan gang. I don't know if you're familiar.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
basically my soft drink was laced with a drug that made me sleep. They took away my money, they took away my bag, and even until now, that incident is not a blurry vision in my mind. Until now, it seemed real, and even until now, it reminded me of my vulnerability and, of course, of life's reality. No, if I have to string together my experience, I think I went back to Luneta. I saw the same group, but I didn't even dare ask. It was my first real brush with danger that time. My heart was beating so fast out of desperation, probably, and out of frustration, out of fear, and of course, of loss. That
Mm-hmm.
incident taught me firsthand to be cautious, of not to trust people at that time.
Yeah.
Now, I slept in the garage, woke up, went around some more. I remembered only having 5 pesos in my pocket, which probably, they didn't notice. I got so hungry and I used it to buy, cooked rice again in a plastic from
Mm-hmm.
Sari Sari store. I went around the streets of Sampaloc in Manila, eating and aimlessly wandering. And probably, I was just really looking for a job. I also remember, by the way, somebody kicked me for no reason. I was walking, eating that rice in a plastic, and then somebody kicked me, just kicked my back. I didn't even know the guy. I didn't even know why he did that, what he did that for. But I still got up and walked around. I also experienced sleeping around in the streets of Paco, in Singalong, in Tondo,
Mm-hmm.
trying to make both ends meet for whatever job I could get into. And experienced people seeing me. I remember this correctly, and this is some form of a realization. I experienced people seeing me, but not really looking at me. It is as if
Mm-hmm.
what they see me, they don't really bother. Not with a
Yeah.
man probably who in their eyes looked broken and looked unkempt. There was
Mm-hmm.
also this experience. I know that I've been talking a lot, but there was also this experience of mine. I remember from summer, a friend of mine who saw me, and when I told him that I had nowhere else to go, he said that I could stay in his house. I did, and I promised him that if I found a job, then I would repay him. Now, after several weeks looking and staying at his house, there was this time when I was taking a bath, and I heard his mother shouting at him. The mother thought that I was out, so she was scolding him for inviting him to stay in that house.
Uh-huh.
Remember, sabi niya, parang wala na nga tayong makain, nag-ampon ka pa ng palamunin, or words to that effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could hear her. I could hear her clearly, but I couldn't blame her because, you see, it was also true. I have no relations to them. Pabigat ako at that time. I understood where the mother was coming from. And, I think I was crying, but I wasn't really. I waited for the mother to leave the house, and I talked to my friend. I apologized profusely. I was saying sorry over and over again because I had to bear the brunt of he
Mm-hmm.
had to bear the brunt of his mother's anger precisely because of me. And I didn't thank him enough even up to this day. When I left that house, the same episodes happened. Sleeping at getting odd jobs in the market, in bad public gyms, and I was practically hopeless. And it lasted for
So,
years.
was there any chance that you thought of going back to your sister and and feeling sorry about everything,
No, looking at
regretting about what you did?
I think I was so young at that time that I even didn't think of going back to my sister for some reason. Probably because I was so proud, or probably because, and as I
Mm.
mentioned, I was really just young and I wasn't thinking. So it didn't cross my mind.
Mhm. So
Wow.
now that you're doing all this to the multinational students that you have, is it partly because of what you've been through during your growing up years? You're trying to inculcate in their minds that they have to be rational with people, dealing with people. Is it partly influenced by what you've been through?
I really didn't think about it, but now that you asked, probably because who we are is simply a byproduct of how we were brought up, our
Yeah.
experiences. I've always thought that who I am at this point is a summation. Kumbaga, ito na
Hmm.
yung naging resulta ng experiences ko. I come to realize, which of course, it's not how how I think of my life. I came to realize now that my experiences are not necessarily separate or individual experiences. I thought na nung may
Mhm.
problema ako noon, I thought nang may, kumbaga, may wall sa harap ko symbolically. Okay? I
Yeah.
thought nung naghihirap ako noon talaga, and I thought that, in that life of misery. And then I also thought na yung mga experience ko na masaya ako, na kumbaga there was joy in my life, that, each one is not related to one another. But looking at it now, when you ask that question, it's basically like looking at the stars. You know how when at night you look at the stars in a moonless night,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
you realize that you have all the stars seemingly separated from one another, minding it,
Mhm.
each other's business.
Mhm.
But you also realize that if you really look at them, they form a constellation. It is as if
Yeah.
they're interconnected. And that's how I look
Yes.
at my experiences. That who I am now is precisely because of those experiences that made me stronger, that probably, no matter how little, made me wiser in the way I deal with my life. And probably also the ones responsible, these experiences of mine, responsible for me being empathetic, responsible for me teaching empathy and understanding and rational thinking to my students,
Mhm.
looking
Mhm.
to concentrating on values formation as well, precisely because of my experience. My experiences are symbolically a constellation. And the reason why I am formed as I am now, precisely because of those experiences.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier in your most trying moments in Manila that people were looking at you, but as if you were invisible. You're not existing. So how do you relate this experience right now with your life in UAE? You're talk perhaps your students are better much well off, but are they going through this kind of experience, these things?
Yeah, but well off or being rich does not equate to happiness.
Yeah.
Regardless of who we are and what we have in life, Sir Chito, we have our own battles,
Mm-hmm.
either emotionally, psychologically,
Mm-hmm.
and that is why I think God gifted me, because of my experiences. God gifted me the ability to listen, to attend to each one, to
Mm-hmm.
understand what is happening around. And I think that is what is lacking now in this world. In fact, for example, when my student, and this is the difference probably, if my student is not able to submit a paper on time, and then that student would probably, when that student asks me that, doctor, I cannot submit the paper, many faculty members, I would like to think, would just be a stickler to the rule. No, you should have submitted that on
Mm-hmm.
time. You're lazy. What have you been doing?
Yeah, yeah.
What I usually do is I ask what happened. Okay, I usually ask that question first. What happened? Because I want to know really what happened. Of course, there is the other side of it, because two things here. The student will be given an opportunity to lie, kay kung
Mm-hmm.
maglalay siya,
Tama,
or the
tama.
student could actually be honest, saying na may nangyari naman talaga. Now, if the student is honest, then fine. Okay, I accept, etc. Now, if the student lies, katapos nakita ko naman na, kumbaga, nakumbinsi ako sa lie niya, then that is not
Okay.
anymore going to be my problem. Because the thing is, if that student continues to lie and I've given him or her the benefit of the doubt, then he
Mm-hmm.
or she will encounter more issues later on in his or her life.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say to myself, it is better to err on the side of kindness, of empathy, than be judgmental to what people do and to what people say.
Okay. So you look at problems more of an opportunities for improvement
Of
rather
course,
than a setback in life.
yes. For me, problems are not problems, but they're basically challenges. There
Mm-hmm.
was this. I always consider it as a wall. The problems. And when I have a wall in front of me, I always reframe my mind. I always think of it as a challenge,
Mm-hmm.
and I always think of it as a test for people who would want to go beyond it, who really, really want it, okay, to go beyond it or to go over it more than the rest because it distinguishes, it delineates, it somehow it tests
Mhm.
people whether they want it enough
Mhm.
or they don't.
And many times those walls are created by you.
That is true. By the way, I always say this to my students. There are two types of problems and issues in our life. The involuntary problems or
Mhm.
issues, or I call them faults, and the voluntary faults. What do I mean by voluntary faults? Ito yung mga tipong kaya ka nagka-problema, nagka-issue dahil ginawa mo. 'Di
Mhm.
ba? Halimbawa, may credit card ka, tapos pinambili mo ng Louis Vuitton bag o kung anumang bag, luxury, tapos hindi ka nakabayad, tapos siningil ka ng bangko, tapos hindi ka nakabayad na kumbaga nakulong ka for some reason. But I don't know the laws in the Philippines now. Pero ibig ko sabihin, nagkaroon ka ng issue precisely because you decided to use, in this example, your credit card for something that is not important, but probably precisely because of something that you probably want, not necessarily the need. But there's also the involuntary fault, which means that napunta ka sa isang sitwasyon na hindi mo namang ginawa, pero externally dumating sa'yo. Halimbawa, nagkaroon ka ng traffic,
Mhm.
gumising ka ng maaga, you woke up really very early in the morning, precisely because of a meeting, but still you got stuck in a traffic. Now, that traffic is known for
Mhm.
me as involuntary fault or issue. Two things
Mhm.
also here.
Okay.
Either you can adapt or do something about it, or be very angry. And many people get angry when involuntary issues come in.
Yeah.
Like, sabi ko nga sa example ko, ito yung sa traffic. What I do because of my experience in the monastery, and we were taught how to do it to become calm and peaceful, is to make an involuntary fault or issue, okay, to convert it, to reframe it into prayer.
Mhm.
Example, na-stuck ako sa traffic, gumising na ako't na ng maaga, na-stuck pa rin ako, so hindi ko siya fault. Talaga lang na nagsabayan lahat ng mga sasakyan at that time o may na-aksidente sa unahan ko, kaya
Okay.
nagka-traffic. Sabi ko nga, pwede naman ako magalit, mainis, magpapapadyak sa sasakyan. But for me, that is an opportunity for prayer, for the spiritual aspect of my life. So, ang palagi kong ginagawa is convert it to prayer. Sabi ko sa sarili ko, Lord, isa itong issue that is making me uncomfortable. Kaya kasi malilate ako sa meeting eh. But I cannot do anything about it. So I'm going to use it. Sinasabi ko sa Diyos, I'm praying, okay, I'm accepting this, and I am making it as a prayer for an intention, probably of my
Mhm.
friend, probably a mother who's sick, or my friend who's sick, or probably an intention of my brothers, my relatives, or my friends. So what happens is that heavy burden, that discomfort is now is now elevated. It becomes lighter. And this is
Mhm.
why you remember biblically, come to me, those who are heavily laden, okay, and I will lift you up and I'll give you rest. For me, that's the very definition of lifting that burden, of transforming it into something that is
Mhm.
spiritually useful. Kaya pag nagkakaroon ako
But
halimbawa ng mga ganyang sitwasyon, na ang nangyayari sa akin is nata-transform yung baggage eh. And that
mhm.
that makes my life easier.
Oh, but
That's a
but the
great
different,
takeaway for our
yeah,
listeners, di
maganda
ba?
maganda yan dyan. But these are not incorporated in our regular curriculum in school. So do you think that there should be some adjustment or shift in our system, that values should be strengthened, values formation, spiritual or everything? Like, you came from a monastery, you stayed there. I mean, you have that orientation in the monastery. So you know you have a different look at life, you have a different look at values. So do you think that we need a shift in our, to put inculcate in our educational system most of that values?
Of course, Sir Chito, you're correct there. You know, the 2009 economic downturn happened precisely because of a few highly intellectual, business people. You have people graduated with MBA from Harvard University, Stanford,
Mm-hmm.
etc. You can just research all these people. These are CEOs from different banks, etc. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
but they affected in 2008 or 2009. I think it started in 2007. They affected many countries, and that's basically an economic downturn that even until now Dubai is suffering from. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is, if you look into their curriculum, according to research, there really is a lack in terms of values formation. There is a lack in business ethics, that
Mhm.
ability to decide what is right, really, not just for them, but for the majority, but for humanity itself. So you are correct, Sir Chito, in saying that faculty members or teachers and even parents, because it all starts at home, that they should teach their students character formation. That is why Japan, for that matter, is I would like to think has a skeletal structure on how to properly train children.
Mm.
Nagsisimula
So,
talaga sila sa training ng character, not
so
intellectualization.
so you believe in the move to bring back GMRC in our curriculum, the elementary curriculum, because it's been taken out of the, I mean, the good manners and right conduct. Kumbaga sa
Yes, of
atin,
course.
good manners and right banyak. But I mean,
That is true. Of course, of course, of course. I think I'm old enough. I'm 51 now. I'm old enough to realize, and I've been dealing with students. I'm old enough to realize that what they lack is a sense of responsibility. Many young ones and even adults now, they would always cry and shout for rights. But what they're forgetting is the responsibility that goes with that right.
would technology have an impact on this? Because remember, even in the dining table, this is a classic situation where everybody's there and yet everybody's so far.
So
Everybody's busy with the.
for me, technology is a tool. Right? It's basically a tool, and a tool is amoral, meaning to say it has no sense of morality. It is neither immoral, it's neither moral. So, which means
Uh,
that in the end, it's going to be the people.
mhm.
Yeah.
So I
That's
cannot
how.
blame technology because, for all its worth, technology made us, we enjoy things precisely because of technology.
What we're doing now is technology.
Precisely, even now, imagine.
So then it should be all the more reason that in our curriculum it should be included that values formation, family values, of course, that
Of
you should
course,
not be attached to our gadgets and everything and all that. And because there is already lack of personal touch even within the family. They
Yes.
that is
dine together and yet everybody's busy at their phones.
I guess it has to do with the perspective of service. Like what we really want to do is to be of service to others instead of being self-serving. Di ba?
that is
Yung nangyayari.
true, John. But you see, that is a I call it always as a motherhood statement. It's a
Mhm.
generalized statement, and what happens is, usually in my case, students, they get confused on such a statement, because how do you do that in practice?
Yeah.
Mhm.
How do you do that in practice? So, as a teacher, I usually marry, as I mentioned, theory or general statements with
Mhm.
practical use. So, ang inaano ko lang, pag may mga ganyan, tama naman din talaga si John, okay, na character education, Sir Chito din, okay, at saka service for others. Pero sabi ko nga, and I'm reminded now because of our discussion, na talakayan nga natin, of Aristotle. Anything extreme, okay, leads to
Mhm.
abuse. Anything extreme is unhealthy. Kaya
Mhm.
sabi niya, in our life, okay, we always have what is known as a dimension. A dimension is basically a measurement na kung saan makikita mo kung extreme ka ba, extreme of lack or extreme of
Mhm.
excess. So
Okay.
sabi niya, to have a good life, which in Greek is known as summum bonum in Greek, translated to our language, is the greatest good. So in
Mhm.
order for you to achieve the greatest good, you need to be in the middle, which is moderation, not excessive and not lacking. I'll give an example. Let us say sleeping. Okay, sleeping. Now, if you sleep too much, you are unproductive.
Mhm.
Okay? Hindi ka productive at saka palagi kang parang inaantok. That's basically the biological effect. Pag ano ka uh, you're always sleeping. So ang nangyayari nga hindi ka makagalaw, hindi ka productive sa buhay mo. Pero kung wala ka din naman talagang tulog, ang nangyayari din is nahihilo ka rin kasi wala kang tulog eh. Game ka ng game o kaya kahit talagang subsuba ng aral mo even into that aspect ha. Since wala kang tulog, minsan naman sobra ka sa tulog, ang nangyayari you're not living a good life. You're not living a well-lived life. So
Yeah.
Aristotle would always say, stay in the middle, in moderation. The same also with eating. Pag kain ka ng kain excessively, hindi ka rin maligaya kasi you get addicted to eating, and at the same time you get, forgive the language, you get fat, and that's the reality. Pag hindi ka rin naman kumakain, naging unhealthy ka rin naman. So ang nangyayari is, you can eat anything but always in moderation.
In moderation.
Oo.
And
Now,
that is
ngayon,
applicable.
oo. Ngayon, Dr. Rex, alam mo naman, we live under new normal, as they say, you know. So, coming from an expert, from a man of distinction like you, what do you suggest to this new trend in education, this online? How can they best apply the theories, the principles that you just explained earlier, the concepts of education? What can you suggest to the parents, to the teachers, to the students as well?
First, the parents, especially if we're talking about grade school to grade 12, okay? That aspect. Parents should be there, especially in values formation. When I say values formation, informing the discipline, the character of the children. It will take a lot of time and it will take effort coming from the parents. But in my experience, parents should be there when lectures are being delivered or done.
All right.
Because look at it this way. As when everything was still being done in the classroom, bago nagka-pandemic, the teacher is there. We see our
Yeah.
students. Okay, we see when a student is misbehaving. We see when a student is cheating. We see when a student is doing something that is untoward. Okay, so nakokorek namin yan. Hindi namin nakikita yan pag may online na ganito. We don't even know what they're doing. Okay, precisely because probably of the lack of technology, in terms of best practices. So ang nangyayari, we always say na, please, parents, make an effort. Now, as a teacher, here is my advice. Make sure that anything related to technology, in order for us to deliver effectively online learning, should be utilized. What do I mean by that? Look, PowerPoint presentation. PowerPoint presentation, in all practicability, is heavily used in online lectures. So make sure that your PowerPoint presentation is visual. Hindi yung puro text, but you have images. Enhance your PowerPoint presentation. The delivery should be engaging. Look at, for example, the way I use my hand. If you notice, do you think it is natural to me? Of course not. I studied this. Okay? Because in psychology, delivery is more effective when you use gesticulation, when you use your hands. Okay? And at the same time, the faculty members or the teacher should also know how to deliver in terms of the use of sound, in terms of the use of voice, the rising and the falling of the voice for engagement. Okay. And it shouldn't be monotone precisely because you're delivering it. So anything that's related to teaching, applications, for example, applications to be used because it has the online lecture has the tendency to be boring.
So
make sure that
it's impersonal. Wala kang connection eh.
That is true. And that is why, in order to engage them, anything related to teaching, I utilize YouTube. I use, for example, many different applications available. I have the digital sticks for example, choosing randomly the students. I also utilize Blackboard, the digital one, in order for me to deliver the lecture. There are so many free ones if faculty members will only have the time to basically explore the different materials or applications available.
Yung sinasabi ni Kachito na kung gusto, maraming paraan.
Yeah.
So, only people are able to do that if they love their profession. Yes,
what would you think would be the social cost of this kung ganun? I mean, para bang minsan kasi it's like a lip service na eh. But what do you think would be the social cost of this? We maintain the kind of education that we have right now, yung online, na wala masyadong personal, na parents are not involved. I mean, they pass on the modules up to the kids to fill it up, no?
They need to be involved. That's what I'm trying to say. They cannot just say that they're not going to be involved. If they're paying the university or the school, and that's going to be the responsibility of the teachers or the institution. They need to be involved. And I cannot say that, I
But would
cannot
it
tell
not be
them,
possible? Yeah. But would it not be
Sir
possible
Tito,
that the parents would be coaching their kids? Would it not be possible that the parents would be coaching their kids what to answer? In other words, it's not them learning, but the parents teaching them how, kumbaga, like cheating.
not necessarily coaching. For me, it's more of an observation of what the children are doing while there is a
Okay.
lecture. Okay, because there should be there should be a line, there should be a divide between what they're supposed to
Exactly.
do and
Exactly.
what they're not supposed to do.
Exactly.
Or it's basically more of supervision that they should be there, na tinitingnan nila kung anong ginagawa, gumagawa ba ng assignment, gumagawa ba ng in-class na, kumbaga, activity yung bata.
Yes, yes. Because these things are not. I don't think they're defined in the module that we have right now, the online lessons. I don't think these are defined.
It's a
Then they
learning, I
should
think
be
it's a learning
defined. Ako
process kasi
simple lang
marami.
akong tao, Sir Chito. Pag hindi siya defined, then define it. Ganun lang siya.
So
And
what
and
was
it's a
what's your
continuous process, di ba? Continuous improvement yan eh. So bago
yeah
lang
yeah
tayo
yeah
sa ganitong online learning and we're finding out a lot of things like yung lagging ng internet, yung
oh yeah
mawala ng audio yung estudyante, yung mga ganung klaseng problema.
That is true, John. Because the thing here is, for an education to be effective, the tools must be there, and it needs the help of the government. And this is when I was interviewed by Inquirer in the Philippines about, I think that was about grade 12, and then it went to online education. I couldn't help but compare how the system of the UAE, Dubai specifically, and that of the Philippines. When the pandemic happened, it was easy for us to transition from a physical classroom to online, precisely because the internet is strong. Okay, the
Fiber kayo
facility.
lahat eh.
Okay, even until now, I don't know if I'm lagging, but I would like to think I'm not lagging. Okay,
No,
but if
no.
it is lagging, it's going to be your fault, not mine
our
here.
always on our end.
See, but it is also, again, as I mentioned, that has something to do with the kind of character and responsibility when it comes to leadership. Kasi, tingnan mo, nang nag-transition kami, walang problema, ang bilis, kaagad. But, nang nagka-pandemic, napunta sa Pilipinas, the most common cry would be that, paano gagawin, hindi makakonect na ng maayos. Ang mga estudyante, wala nga mga laptops, gagamit ng phone. Diba?
Yes.
Katapos magastos. Dito ang internet halos free if you go to the talagang free if you go outside, you go to the malls, you go to coffee shop, it's really free. Okay? Pumunta ka sa bus, pumunta ka sa taxi, kahit na nasa naglalakbay ka, may internet ang taxi dito at even
And
bus.
it's fast. Hindi lang free. It's free and fast.
That is true. Magbabayad ka lang siyempre pag nasa bahay ka because you should be connected to to a provider. But my point here is the structure is there, laid out. Sa Pilipinas, and to think na ang yaman natin, again, I'm not going to be very political about it, but as I mentioned, I couldn't help but compare. Palagi ko ang sinasabi sa mga estudyante ko, these multicultural students, you visit the Philippines, they would usually visit Malaysia or Thailand, but generally not in the Philippines because, again, of the news. Pero pag pinapakita ko sa kanila yung ang tourism industry natin, makikita yung mga islands, etc., talagang gustong-gusto nila. Ang point ko lang is, we're very rich in natural resources. Okay, we have which could be translated financially na pwede nating gamitin pagdating sa paano pagagandahin yung buhay natin in terms of the infrastructure. I'm going to education now na pwede naman nating kumbaga pagandahin yung educational system based on the kind of riches that we have. But the reason why it doesn't happen precisely because of corruption, because of the kind of I love Duterte, by the way. Don't misconstrue.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not attacking the government, nothing of that sort. Okay, and the only reason I am saying that I love Duterte because the son is very close.
Our president really hates corrupt officials, and he's really against corruption. I know.
And
another problem with that, with our infrastructure, is the insurgency as well. I guess it's a known issue where the telcos cannot put up their stations the cell sites just anywhere because it will just be burned or damaged.
For me, really, it really boils down to corruption. You see, I made the consultant for digital faculty consultant of McGraw Hill. And every year, they would ask me to go to London to speak and to share my knowledge on digital education. And then
Mhm.
I asked them, why is it that you don't have an office in the Philippines, like a proper office? Okay. And according to the feedback that they gave me, is that they have to go through different channels.
Oh, the red tape, bureaucratic red tape. That's too
Yes, I didn't want to say that, but that is true. Instead of
well.
directly, having business with them or talking to
Or
them
yeah,
directly, they need to go through these different channels that have been there in the Philippines for many years, who lobby to our politicians and give money to our
Well,
politicians to protect their interests.
well, as
And
you say, when you're following up documents here in the government, in some government offices, it's common. Oh, nasaan ang supporting pesos dito? Ang mga manifestation nito kailangan mabilis ang manipulation. Those things, but I mean, that's well, fortunately, we have a president who's really seriously pursuing anti-corruption effort because alam mo yung bureaucratic red tape na yan, it's been with us for so long a time. And I hope the
that is
president will succeed until his final years in office. We pray that he'll succeed somehow. Kasi talagang institutionalized na yung corruption in most
yeah.
agencies. Unfortunately, that's the reality.
I pity whoever will lead the Philippines. If I have to base it from Karl Marx, I'm not saying that I'm for communism or socialism, nothing of that sort. But I teach also, politics, and I teach humanities and society. I teach also culture and ethics, and I'm able to compare different cultures from different countries as well. And there was this one thing that struck me in my discussion with Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. They said that there is not going to be a change in a country kung ang papalitan mo lang i-leader. For
Mhm.
a for a structure to change, to really have an impact in terms of change, pag pinalitan mo yung leader, papalitan mo rin talaga yung mga nasa baba. Kasi
Well,
kung
actually.
walang talaga magkakaroon ng change yan eh. Because you will have remnants, you will have oppositions, you will have, all this,
That's the
all
sad
this
part
values.
dito. That's the sad part dito, Dr. Rex, because they have that mentality na ikaw, in-appoint ka ng presidente. Yung mga nasa baba will always say, o sige, mananahimik lang ako. Total, hanggang ano ka lang dyan eh. We
True,
are career, we will stay here and you'll be out.
true. And kaya talagang hindrance yan sa progress natin eh.
Well,
And,
so,
you know, I don't know what to
and
say.
going back, you were saying earlier about culture, anong mga cultural peculiarities natin dito that could influence, you're handling students, mga multinational students mo. So, ano mga peculiarities ng Pinoy you think nagkukos ito ng stagnation ng estudyante that makes us different from the other cultures?
We as we were before this before we went public, we were discussing about it, and I just want also the others to know we really don't have a CEO mentality. At
Oh,
least
okay.
we really don't have. Okay, it's like we're okay to be in service.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that hinders also our, generally, with exceptions, I always say, it also hinders our for innovation, for thinking, for disruption in business and technology.
Mm-hmm.
Kaya even here in Dubai, many of us are basically in the services industry. Nasa restaurants, receptionist. Kasi nga, palagi tayong nakasmile. Kasi nga, palagi tayong umuoo. Kasi nga, palagi tayong sumusunod. Even if we
Oh.
have something in our mind, we are not trained to put that out in public, to say it, even if we have something innovative and creative. Generally, again, with some exception. So,
Is it part? Okay. Go on. Okay.
It's fine, Doctor. Sir Chito, tell me.
To go on, Rick. I was just saying it's partly because of our training since elementary that we've been trained to be passive, obedient, and everything. That we were never given the wings to fly on our own.
For me, it's more of culture. We've been subservient. I mean, for many years, we've been under the Spanish regime. We've been under the
The
Japanese. We've been
yeah,
under the
the Indios.
Americans, etc.
We
That
were
is true.
the
Okay,
Indios.
that is
Okay.
true, and it has been inculcated in us na talagang inferior tayo. Okay,
Mhm.
so but my point is, hanggang kailan tayo magkakaroon ng ganung mindset?
Exactly.
Mhm.
So
Kasi
when
ang education system natin, di ba, is based on just producing workers. So followers basically ang style ng education natin eh. So kaya mga laborers, mga workers, we all follow. Uh, Bihira yung leaders.
And if you think about it, hindi nga tayo hindi tayo business minded. And that is true. I've been hearing a lot about it, but we're not business minded. We would
But
want to be in company, be an employee, but never risk, but not really risk putting up a business. And I think that
but it
needs to change.
but it's probably because we have limited opportunities, perhaps, dito. Perhaps we're not getting that really much support from the government. The opportunities, whatever. So it be one reason, right? Right.
But you see, uh, Sir Chito, when I came to Dubai, I would like to think that what you mentioned is going to be also applicable to my experience. I had
Mhm.
limited opportunities. It is very rare to have a Filipino professor here in the UAE because we're basically in the industry. Very competitive ang mga foreigners dito pagdating sa university. You need to have a
Mhm.
PhD from a recognized university. So
Okay.
and I remember this when I was new here in the UAE 11 years ago. That was probably my first week in the university, and there were these two students who went to to the faculty lounge, and they really sought me. And then they asked me this question, and not ask a question, but they told me, Doctor, can you say fried chicken? And I said fried chicken. And then they asked me again, can you say fried chicken? I said fried chicken. And then I could see in their faces that they couldn't believe it. So they asked me again, Doctor, can you say fried chicken three times? And I said fried chicken, fried chicken. And then I realized what they wanted to know. They wanted me to say fried chicken, okay, instead of because they thought that Filipinos could not distinguish F from P,
Mhm.
okay? And they could not pronounce properly between the two. So ang point ko lang here is they were so surprised that I'm able to pronounce that, which by the way, I had the difficulty coming from Samar when I was young.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm, mhm,
So if
mhm.
you're talking about opportunities, okay, I would like to think I went through a lot of difficulties looking for opportunities, but it did not stop me to make myself better.
Uh,
Kahit di
when did you start noticing yung mga students mo or prospective students to be the well sought after na professor? Like everyone was recommending, there was the word of mouth that you have to take this subject from this professor. So when did you start noticing it?
at probably around 5 years ago, okay, I was in that university. When I that was my experience when those students went to my office to the faculty lounge. I realized that being a professor in a university is not something that is normal in the UAE. In fact, at that time, I think I was one of the two Filipino professors. All the rest, ibang lahi na talaga. Now, I realized na hindi ko, bakit ganun ang tingin nila sa mga Pilipino? Which hindi ko naman sila ma-blame precisely because that's their experience and they're young, they're impressionable.
Mhm, mhm,
So I
mhm.
said, how can I be a good teacher? And then it
Okay.
went to, how can I be an excellent teacher? So what did I do? I thought of exploring my God-given talent. Sabi ko, naging teacher ako because God wanted me to be a teacher. And I knew that for the longest time na ang gift talaga na binigay sa akin is teaching. And that, by the way, if I have to trace back, when I was in Malaybalay, Bukidnon as a monk, okay, and in a contemplative monastery, the abbot noticed that I really have a gift for teaching because I was teaching the children of farmers at that time. So the abbot is the superior of the monastery, told me that, Rex, I don't think that you're supposed to be on, in this monastery on the mountain. We have a university in Manila, okay, run because that monastery is a Benedictine monastery, okay, under
Mhm.
Saint Benedict. So sabi niya, meron tayong eskwelahan sa Manila, which is a Benedictine university, which is San Beda University. That was San Beda College before. So sabi niya, I would recommend you there kasi nga nasa teaching ka. That was the gift. And then, who knows? You might get developed. So, pinapunta ko sa Manila, kinausap yung superior doon, yung Father Abbot doon, and then I got accepted. Sabi niya, okay, let's observe Rex. And then they asked me to study for my master's as a scholar, as a monk, and my PhD in philosophy at De La Salle University. So that was the beginning of my career.
Mm.
Now, recognizing that talent, kahit nang pumunta ako dito sa Dubai, ito yung gift na binigay sa akin ng Diyos. Paano ako magiging excellent? So, ang ginawa ko is self-study.
Mhm.
Anong ibig sabihin ng self-study? Mabuti na lang na-imbento yung internet. Kasi,
Okay.
sabi ko, ano ang kailangan para maging isang magaling na guro? Since ang isang guro nagsasalita in front of the students. So, paano ba maging magaling na speaker? Nag-Google ako, nag-YouTube ako ng mga great speakers. Paano sila magsalita? Paano nila i-raise yung hand nila? Paano yung raising and falling ang voice nila? Paano ibibitin yung topic para they would want it for more? They would want more. So pinag-aralan ko yun. And then paano mag-design ng PowerPoint presentation? Nag-YouTube ako uli, nag-Google ako uli. What
Okay.
is composition? What are colors? How do you combine them? Anything related to my profession, to my gift, I explored, I experienced, and I enhanced.
Mhm.
Kasi sabi ko, this is only just because this was the gift given to me. Parang Diyos di ba yung biblically, binigyan ka ng coins, binigyan ng father ng coins yung mga anak. Anong ginawa ng iba? Yung iba tinago, yung iba tinapon doon sa kung ano, yung isa ginamit. Yun ang ginawa ko. Ginamit ko ang talent or skill or gift na binigay sa akin ng Diyos. Ba't ko naman siya itatago? Ito nga yung gusto sa akin. So from there on, nang in-explore ko at in-enhance ko yung talent ko, nakita ng mga estudyante na I am being different from other faculty members.
Mhm.
I am doing things as, excellently. And I'm not bragging about it because I'm not doing it for fame or for reputation. I'm doing it precisely because it is the right thing to do.
Okay. So,
Yes, and for our audience, this is a great takeaway for those who are asking how to be you po. Ito na yun.
so what was your biggest challenge, Dr. Rex, as a professor? Considering that you have a class of multinationals, what was your biggest challenge?
At that time, ngayon medyo nagamay ko na din kasi talaga siya. But at that time, when I was new, I'm a very, John could warrant this. I'm a very small guy. I'm a small guy. And yung mga estudyante ko noon, ang tatangkad, ang gaganda, ang gagwapo, etc. And generally, because I think it's part of their culture, they have strong personalities.
Mhm.
So sasabihin talaga nila yung gusto nila. And in the beginning, I was actually, I would like to think they were sizing me up. Okay, kasi nga bago ko. That was the biggest challenge. But I realized also that, hey, I am a Filipino and I would want to reframe their thought, their mindset on what they think Filipinos are. So sabi ko, pag-iigihan ko, and at the same time also, again, I have to go back to that gift. Okay, I need to nurture the gift given to me so that when the time comes that God will ask me at the last sunset of my life, when God asks me, what have you done with the gift I've given to you? I could tell God with all honesty that I've finished the race. I've done my best. I've utilized the gift you have given to me, enriched that gift. So please, accept me in the bosom of your heart. I'm saying that poetically,
but are you there yet on that journey, Dr. Rex? Are you there yet, or you still have a long way to go?
For me, it has never been. What is important to me is not the arrival, What is important to me is the journey itself. There is
Okay.
always, there
Okay.
is always, yeah, look at it this way. There is, I know I'm going to be very technical with this, but there is what is known as a bounded rationality. Again, sorry about it.
Okay.
What do we mean by bounded rationality? This is a theory that states that everything that we know today, I'm going to simplify it for those who are
Yeah.
listening. Uh, Everything that we know today, all the knowledge that we have, okay, we know only today based on the kind of tools that we have today.
Hmm. Yeah.
As humanity develops, okay, as we invent more tools and as we explore more knowledge, anything that we know today will change. It's either the knowledge that we have get enhanced or the knowledge that we have today will be replaced by another. The reason why I'm saying that, Sir Chito, is precisely this. When I said that it has nothing to do with the arrival or the end, it's precisely because I'm aware of the fact that as I grow older, as I gain more experience, there are certain terrains that needed to be explored.
Hmm.
Okay,
It's
that
a
is
con-
where I'm coming from. So it's going
that's
to be,
And we don't have the tools yet
that
to
is true.
so
do
it's
it.
like
That's
it's
why.
it's always a continuing learning experience. Everyday life is a continuing learning experience.
That is
But
true.
going
Until,
back, yeah, going back to what I mentioned earlier. So do you think that our educational system here in the Philippines is still responsive or sensitive to realities on ground?
it is, by the way, it is. Look, the way I see it, okay, any system is good.
Hmm.
Okay, it's the one who utilizes the system who isn't.
Mm.
Look, even in the study of governments, you have a capitalistic form of government, you have a socialist form of government, you have a patriarchal sort, you have also the democratic form, you have all these sorts of governments.
Yeah.
The reason why I like that we have varieties precisely because we're pluralistic in the sense that we have different tastes.
Hmm.
And you can always embrace a particular dimension, a particular structure according to how you like it.
Okay.
Okay, for me, everything is good. The problem here is, ang nangyayari, kung sino ang humahawak ng structure na yon, sinong nagpapatakbo.
Mm, yeah, yeah,
Kasi
yeah.
ako, halimbawa, ang sa akin din naman, kumbaga, halimbawa, pen. Lahat naman ng pen pare-pareho eh. Isa lang naman talaga ang purpose ng pen, sumulat. Pero bakit may varieties ng pen? Bakit may mabangong tinta sa pen? Bakit may ibang size ng pen? Precisely because may different needs tayo na gusto natin.
Yeah,
So a pen in itself is good. It depends on your preference. The problem here is how you use the tool.
yeah. Okay. Now I understand. Yeah, it's really a matter of implementing it subjectively, not objectively, because whoever is implementing it matters the
That is
most.
true. That is true. Our government, our governmental system, which is basically patterned after the U.S. Okay, because if you notice, we're the only democratic country, by the way, in Asia. So, so what I'm trying to say, it is good. Okay, if it worked in the U.S., then objectively, properly speaking, it should work with us. The problem
Oh.
is we didn't have the character to properly implement the system. And yet we're using the same system as basically what the US is using. Well, let me just say, a little modification because it's federalism in the US and we're not. But, the very foundation is the same.
You're the
So
same.
para sa akin, hindi talaga sistema eh. It's basically who uses the system.
Okay. So, Aiko, from an expert, from a doctor, from a PhD, what would you suggest to Filipinos how they could change their mindset on life, on whatever is happening, especially now under the new normal? What insights could you give to the Filipinos?
Character, really. I'll have to go back to character. Regardless of whether it is new normal or the old ways, it really
Mhm.
is going to be character. Because regardless of the change, if the foundation is strong, the change in itself will not affect negatively the foundation. Parang
Uh,
bahay yan eh. Kung
do you think that
magandang pundasyon ng bahay mo, bagyuhin ka man, hindi ka pa rin
mm,
ililipat eh.
well, but everything starts with the family. Family foundation starts. Do you think medyo nakukulangan na ang ating sa family foundation natin? Humihina na ba
True.
sa
That is
family?
That is true. It's the erosion of values.
Mhm.
Tapos
Okay.
you have, again, when you say family, ang dami kasing factors dyan you have to look into what do children and what do young ones who will eventually become heads of families, what do they see on their television? See, that is one that needs to be considered.
Okay.
Pag nagbabakasyon kayo, saan kayo nagpupunta? Do you go for vacation, for example, just to enjoy? And most often when you do, it's basically for enjoyment? Or is it basically for for getting information that is related to values formation or probably to your business careers? And the reason why I'm telling you that is this. In the study of leadership, okay, there was a massive research on leadership. And this research, in the end, came up with 3 defining characteristics sa mga leaders.
Mhm.
Leaders should incorporate. The first one is, okay, that the question is, what separates great leaders, okay, from the others? The first one of the 3 is this, that where do you go? Okay, where do you go? It has something to do with your calendar. Paano
Yeah.
mo malalaman na magaling kang leader? By looking into your calendar. Saan ka nagpupunta pag
Opo.
nagbabakasyon ka? Saan ka nagpupunta kung gusto mong may puntahan kahit minsan sa bansa natin? Ibig kong sabihin, ang kalendaryo mo ba ay puno ng things that would enhance you as a person. Not just of information, but also for your betterment. Nag-a-attend ka ba ng trainings? Nag-a-attend ka ba ng conferences? Nakikinig ka ba sa mga ganitong ginagawa natin ngayon?
Mhm.
Kasi may diferensya yan pagdating sa kung ano talaga ang pinagbabasihan mo sa buhay mo. Yung iba, kung makikita mo yung kalendaryo nila, palaging manunood ng sine, pupunta sa kapitbahay, makikipagchismisan. Okay? Kahit yung libro na binibili, kung bumibili man ng libro, that is one. That would determine whether you're going to become an effective leader or not. The other one is your ability to relate with other people of different nationalities.
Mhm.
Kasi ano tayo karamihan sa atin, gusto natin, nandoon tayo sa grupo na pare-pareho tayo. Di ba? Parehong Pilipino, parehong Indiano, o kaya pare-pareho tayo ng may gusto. We have that tendency, that tendency. When in fact, an effective leadership would mean that you have the ability to be able to talk to other people of different religious beliefs without judgment, of different nationalities without judgment, of different environment, of different culture. If you are able to do that, then you have the making of a good leader. And the other one, of course, is risk-taking, which we also lack. Filipinos don't really risk. You must you must develop the stamina, okay, to go on with your dream, to go on with what you think is good, regardless of what other people say to you. And reality check, if you have a dream, the very first persons who will contradict your dream are the people closest to you.
Closest to you. Yeah. I hear you. So,
Kaya nga, yun ang palagi kong sinasabi na, Filipinos, for many, because again, there are exceptions, must develop this kind of qualities. At habang bata pa, together with values formation, these must be inculcated to our children if we want change.
Mhm. And you gave an example kanina yung Japanese culture.
True.
Meron sila ba yan, yung mga qualities na yan?
So, look at if you study the culture of Japan, there are so many there are 3 Hofstede study, the Globe study on different cultures. And when I was studying it, there was this, what stood out para sa akin is mga bata pa lang itong the Japanese, bata pa lang sila. Hindi naman talaga sila, ang pundasyon nila hindi yung pagiging intelligent Hindi mathematics, hindi nga English, hindi ganun Ang ano talaga nila is character building, responsibility. Tinuturuang maghugas, tinuturuang umano sa metro. These are all the skills and respect and loyalty for the country. Even that, for example, the sense of nationalism is lacking sa atin tingnan mo, ang mga binibili natin, bakit basketball yung national game natin or sports natin? Yan liliit natin generally, as a race. In fact, mas
Mhm.
magaling tayo sa sipak takraw, isn't it? Boxing for
Yeah,
that
yeah,
matter.
yeah.
Okay? Bakit tayo nasa basketball? Kasi nga, that's also the brilliance of the Americans when they came, and this is what happened, comparatively speaking, with during the Spanish regime. Bakit hindi tayo masyadong naapektuhan in terms of the way we think of mindset ng mga Spaniards? Precisely because they did not educate us. But
Mhm.
the Americans, and I think you know this, what the Americans, when they came, anong unang nilang ginawa? They educated us. They sent American teachers to the Philippines. And that became, that was, I would like to think that was the one responsible, that incident, that brilliant decision of the Americans became responsible for how we always look at something Western as essential, as something na
Mhm.
we could always emulate. Kaya tingnan mo, ito ang sinasabi ko, bakit basketball? I have nothing against basketball kasi nga, San Beda ako galing magaling ang San Beda sa basketball. So, I always cheer. Ang ano ko lang is, that is already an illustration of somehow nami-misalign yung talent and skill natin as a country. That is for me an indication.
Do you think that there's still a chance for, I mean, Filipinos to change part of our habit, culture, or whatever it is? Do you think that we can still change?
Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, mentioned that you are what you repeatedly do.
Mhm.
Okay? You are what you repeatedly do. To answer that question based on that quotation of Aristotle, bago pa tayo naging ganito, what we repeatedly do, okay, kung nasaan tayo ngayon, it started
Yeah.
from somewhere, which means that if we want to change, we need to change now, or there should come a time that we as a community, as Filipinos, should decide, and through through leadership, we should decide to change, and then we should repeatedly do that change,
Mhm.
in order for that to be embedded in our culture.
So, do you think that we have? I mean, with what's happening, what we can hear right now, do we think that we have too much freedom? That sometimes it is abused, or
It, I'll have to reframe it. We don't have too much freedom. We have a lack of responsibility. Our
all
freedom is
right.
gone. It's the lack of responsibility.
Okay. Now, so anyway, John, anything more? Do you have? You have other appointments, Doctor Rex?
I have at 11, so we still have time if you want to. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm enjoying your thoughts. Can you please share your thoughts with some of those planning to succeed like you did in Dubai? What they need to start, the basics. I mean, of going what you've been through in Dubai.
Ang sa akin, isa lang ang naging ano ko diyan, naging guide. Ito yung sinabi ko earlier na explore, recognize what you are good at, your talent,
Mhm.
your God-given talent. Kasi nung bata pa tayo, may kanya-kanya tayong talent You can be, probably your gift is to become, is to sing, to become a singer, or probably to become an accountant. That is your gift because you're good in numbers. Or probably you're
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
medical profession, or probably you're a
Mhm.
nurse. Once na ma-recognize mo yun, kung nasaan ka ngayon, then enhance it. Okay, in order for you to be excellent. When I say enhance it, katulad ng ginawa ko as a teacher, ano ang mga bagay na po pwedeng makaapekto sa akin o magamit ko para maging isang magaling na guro?
Mhm.
Ganun ako palagi. I need to align. Because look at it this way. And the reason why people don't really achieve excellence is that they are easily distracted by the things that are not aligned to their gift.
Mm. Pilit,
Look,
napipilit-pilit.
of course,
Kumbaga,
look at our behavior. Look at our behavior. Simple lang naman talaga yung, kumbaga, i-align mo ang sarili mo Ano ba talagang kailangan mong malaman as a person? Yung
yeah.
community mo, yung news, yung weather. I'm being practical about this one. Kaya ito lang naman talaga mga bagay Pero tingnan mo kung ano karamihan ng at least sa Pilipino, not karamihan but some. I would just say some. Ano ang umuukupa sa pang-araw-araw na buhay nila?
Mhm.
Facebook. Okay, Facebook, social media, Tulfo. I have nothing against them, by the way, but these are non-essentials.
Oh.
Okay, but these non-essentials are commonly what preoccupies people. When in fact, the preoccupation should be the nurturance of your gift for excellence. I-enhance mo
Mhm.
ang sarili mo sa kung saan nandoon ka sa profession mo na ngayon. Kaya hindi mo na-enhance kasi nga, nood ka ng nood ng Netflix, nood ka ng nood ng Tulfo, nood ka ng mga talas teleserye and K-drama. I'm not saying that you should not do it. What I'm saying is minimize them
Mhm.
and not be preoccupied by them.
Games pa, hindi mo na-mention.
Come again?
Games.
So, games. See,
Mhm.
and if that is the case, even spiritually, you are not really utilizing the gift given to you. And for me, that is an injustice and that is unfair. Because, you see, palagi ko ang sinasabi ito, sa dinami-dami ng tao, bakit pagsasalita o pagiging guro ang magaling ako? Gusto ko maging
Mm.
singer, hindi naman maganda boses ko, kahit na gustong-gusto ko. Ibig sabihin, hindi yun yung gift ko. Gusto ko
Mhm.
maging dancer, marunong ako sumayaw, pero hindi naman ako kasing galing probably ng talagang may gift for dancing. Which means, na ito talaga yung binigay sa akin. So I
Yeah.
need to enhance it.
So,
The very
in other
fact
words,
that-
you
Yes.
believe in destiny. You believe in destiny, that Dr. Rex. And where you are right now is your destiny, partly etched on the palm of your hands.
Well, ang hirap i-justify, Sir Chito, kasi nung destiny because this can be abused eh. I'm just thinking rationally, logically. Kasi some people would think that if they are poor, that is their destiny. Yan ang ayoko mangyari eh.
Anything,
You give up
Oh,
because
becomes
destiny, yan ang destiny. You lose
Oh,
faith, you lose hope.
That is true. It
Okay.
becomes an excuse, a justification for what they are at this point or who they are
Okay.
at this time.
Okay.
Na ganito talaga eh. Ganitong binigay sa akin ng Diyos eh. And
Exactly.
you would construe it as destiny. When in fact, for me, it isn't. For me, is that in that sense, ganito ang destiny sa akin eh. You were given a talent and that talent should be used for your destiny. Okay?
Mhm.
But if you don't utilize the talent, if you don't enhance and use the talent, then it will be something else. Because I've always believed that God has given us freedom.
Mhm.
Fortunately or unfortunately, how and what we do with with the gift will determine the kind of destiny that we have. Sabi ko nga, and I will relate this even to prayer. Prayer is always equitable. It goes with action. Sabi mo, tingnan mo social media natin, di ba? Karamihan ng mga taong bashers, tingnan mo yung kanilang social media. Palaging may nakalagay doon na God-fearing. I love
Oh,
God.
yeah.
Blessed. Di ba?
Ano yan? Smoke
That-
screen?
That is true. There is a dissonance between who they think they are and what they actually do. Yun ang palagi kong sinasabi. Pagdating sa destiny, the enhancement of your action, okay, should actually go, your gift should actually go with that destiny that you're thinking of or that what you believe in. Hindi po pwede
So-
talagang service lang eh.
So in other words, subconsciously, lumalabas din yan yung whatever is in your heart. Lumalabas subconsciously.
True. That is true.
Yun ang that's the problem nga because pero there are a lot of those who were guided by who believed in their destiny, but ikaw going back to your life when you malit ka pa noon, what the challenges that you've been through, did it ever occur in your mind during your years dun sa Katbalogan na you will reach the pinnacle of your life like where you are right now? Did you ever
No.
dream of the life that you have right now?
No. It takes a lot of maturity and reflection, okay, to be able to trace back your experiences and do something with that experience. Ito yung sinasabi ko palagi kanina, and this is very clear to me. There will come a time in your life that you're going to be mature enough to realize that there is certain connectedness in your experiences, and that connectedness would guide you in the service of humanity or people.
Okay.
Very clear ako sa path ko. I'm not going to be confused with No, nung bata, syempre bata, it's basically, the responsibility of the professionals and the family to nurture us, okay, to equip us. Kasi hindi pa, it's part of our biological process eh. Ang mind naman talaga natin is hindi pa capable to decide on our own and to be responsible. And that is why, nung tinatanong mo ako, clear na ba nung dati pa? Hindi eh. Hindi. I needed to experience, but with that experience or experiences, I needed to reflect on those in order for me to have a direction to where I am going or where I should go. I think what is lacking in today for many people is their inability to reflect on what happened to them or on their experiences. They are being overwhelmed by the present that they don't have the time, even if they actually do have. They don't have the time to look back and reflect on what the experiences are telling them to guide them on the kind of direction that they're treading, they're going to.
So,
Kasi
alam mo naman,
maraming tulfo, maraming Facebook.
Anyway.
Yung oras nila, hindi na sila
anyway, ngayon, at this time of pandemic, at ang mga mental cases natin medyo tumaas, you know that, reported mga intervention ng mga mental issues.
depression.
What would you suggest to those right now who are feeling depressed, hopeless? How are they what can you suggest to them to be able to regain their life?
I cannot answer that in a manner na generalized kasi nga kanya-kanyang it's a case-to-case basis eh. As I always say, I need to listen first. I need to be empathetic because we basically have our own battles. Eh. Hindi natin alam saan manggagaling eh. But I can offer also something that probably, in a general manner, if somebody comes to you asking for help and the person says that he or she is depressed, then do not offer a solution. You really need just listen. Don't offer a solution, especially if you're not a professional. Because in our experience, in counseling, you are not going to help. Generally, your tendency is to be judgmental. When you say, for example, ano ka ba, face lang yan, that is not going to be effective. Or iinom na lang natin yan, that will also not help. Okay? Or sasabihin mo, ano ka ba, nangyari din sa akin yan, tingnan mo naman ngayon, nalampasan ko. But you see, we have our, we're different in terms of our coping mechanism. So usually, pag may lumapit sa'yo na tao and somehow unburdens himself or herself, then you have to ask this question, what happened? Anong nangyari? Ito ang palagi mong dapat sasabihin.
So we don't really have to be empathic about their situation.
Don't offer a solution unless the person asks. And many times they don't ask for a solution. They just need a shoulder to lean on.
Yeah, okay.
If you notice, if you really look into the nitty-gritty of the dynamics of conversation of a person who is depressed and a person who tries to listen to offer a solution, very rarely ng isang tao mag-a-ask ng solution. They just want to say something and to unburden. And your responsibility as the person is to listen, not to offer a solution. Because the solution should be relegated to the professionals, especially in depression. Okay. And for me, that's basically the foundation. That's usually the dynamics that we do in our counseling. And the reason why I'm able to speak that way to you, because we usually do counseling sa mga OFWs dito sa UAE who get depressed, and there are many of them.
And incidentally, our one of our panelists nung last talakayan namin na Dr. Rex was POE Administrator Bernardo Lalia. In-explain niya ito ngayon, yung mga challenges, yung mga nangyayari sa Dubai. But yun nga, I'd like also to share yung sabi niya na ang comment ng mga employers during their mga meetings, yung mga bilateral agreements, that they all have praises for Filipino workers. Like you're saying, very competent, very obedient, very, di ba? But it also boils down to one thing. Masyado tayong passive. We do not even express what we have in our hearts and in our mind.
True. Na yun ang kailangan masolusyonan.
Okay. John, anything kay Kwan? Dr. Rex, your classmate, who's gone a long way from Catalogan?
Ang daming mga take home dito sa sa ating talakayan.
Alam mo
Oh,
bang yan si John talagang napaka-intelihente niyang tao na yan. Kahit nung high school namin yan, salutatorian si John, yeah, that's true. Salutatorian yan si John.
well, ayan yan sila magkakapatid. You know yung brother niya, si Vince? Yun ang yung inakyat ni Obama yung barko because at that time, Judge, he was the captain ng Gregorio del Pilar, He was the commander. Oh,
Yes,
yung
he was the captain.
graduating anak
Commanding officer ng barko.
Well, they're all bright
They had they
bright
had
kids.
they had a one-on-one session 30 minutes. Sila lang dalawa. Actually sila tatlo pati yung press photographer. So they had their
So,
discussions.
uh,
And I asked what was the discussion, and they said it was just anything under the sun. It wasn't strategic or anything.
well, like alam mo, Dr. Rex, this was very enlightening discussions. I've learned a lot. Perhaps if you can share
It
your
has been,
thoughts about anything, but because coming from a guy who went through the monastery, went through the challenges nung you slept in Luneta, nabugbog, nasipa, but now are getting the distinction from all over USA, Europe. Can you share your thoughts na sa mga
no longer
about
invisible.
life?
No
About
longer
life.
invisible.
No longer invisible. I've not. Here is probably just a thought. Never allow poverty or difficulty to overwhelm you. I've always thought that my my control is rather internal. I refuse to be controlled by anything external. And I am very clear with what I want to do. And I know also very clear on how to do it. As I mentioned, I came to a point, at least in my age, and based also on my experience, my in fact, even my not so good experiences, I consider them essential.
Mhm.
And I think as a parting word or parting words for everyone, I've always nurtured a mind and a self that is always grateful. Kahit nung nung nasa Luneta, na Ativangang ako, pinagsalitaan ako ng hindi maganda ng ilang tao sa Pilipinas noon when I was still struggling, I always would ask profusely for forgiveness and I always thank them. Okay? Precisely because ang nangyari sa akin noon is kahit dumaan ako sa ganon, the fact na inaccommodate ako, the fact na kumbaga hindi naman nila obligasyon na pakainin ako pero pinakain pa rin ako. Kahit na ang kinahinatnan kumbaga na-disappoint sila or kumbaga na-burden na rin sila at nakapagsalita ng ganon. I always consider that as something that I needed to be thankful for. I don't take it personally. Dahil sabi ko nga, it is precisely because of this mentality, okay, a life of gratitude, that somehow I look at things differently. And that guided me and carried me well in my life. Yes, sir.
Are those experiences na dinaanan mo partly also what you are right now, that you are always ready to share your experience, ready to motivate, you're ready to encourage and ready to inspire people? Was it
That is-
because of those?
Yes, two things, Sir Chito. The 3 years were actually the lowest 3 years of my life. Okay, but those were also the most important 3 years of my life.
It changed everything.
Yeah, that changed me. That changed me in the sense that even the way I relate with people, as you mentioned, easily giving talks to others for free. In fact, I probably have given, I don't know how many now, because every weekend, in fact, even sometimes twice in a week or thrice in a week, I have talks, small groups, big groups, locally, internationally, even interviews. And I usually do it for free, precisely because of that experience of 3 years.
Okay.
Wherein I needed somebody to listen and to help me, but nobody did. Wherein, and that is also the other side, there are those people who listened to me and changed my life. So if I can do something to listen to people who wanted to be listened to, then I could have, and somehow make their lives better. then I'm all for it precisely because I experienced that.
Well, I have high respect for you, my kababayan from Samar, because again, sabi nga nila, life is measured in not on how much, not how much we earn, not how much we live in luxury, but how much we are able to touch other people's lives. So,
That is true. That's
thank
very
you,
my
Dr. Rex. Thank you, Dr. Rex, because tayo, we all had our journeys. Si John had his journey, ako ay, kasi kami, we're both mga ano kami, mga ano we both lost our wives, ano. So but we had but again, it's a matter of engaging our problems on our by ourselves. Okay,
That is
thank
true.
you so much, Dr. Rex, and
Thank you as well. I really enjoyed having conversations with you. Itong talakayan nga. And this is one of the most enjoyable conversations. Parang ano lang yung parang
well,
nag-uusap lang tayo sa isang lugar.
alam, sabi ko nga, Dr. Rex, kami, we have other talakas. Usually, because this is the living, lakbay ng buhay, this is a separate segment. Then we have the talakayan, this is more of like mga advocacy namin, we have government and these affected stakeholders. But sinasabi ko, let this be a platform for objective and constructive discussions. Hindi tirahan. Because what is important right now is to come up with solutions, suggestions, not to criticize, not to say anything about the government or whatever, but to come up with constructive discussions.
True.
Yeah. And being mindful of the time, it's 2:30.
Yeah,
Ang sarap kasi ng kwentuhan eh. Time flies when you're having fun eh.
We're having our Christmas special. We would like to have your message, Dr. Rex, because kami ni John, we're gathering messages for the Filipinos all over because ang live stream tayo sa YouTube eh. Sabi ko nga, ngayong panahon na may pandemya, medyo ang anxiety, ang tao, fearful, what we need to express to the Filipinos abroad ay nagkakaisa tayo na magdasal o mag-wish sa kanila ng prosperous and safe New Year. So probably you can give your message to us. Iyan mo lang, Dr. Rex. I-video lang. Sasama namin.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe next time we'll have another chance to have this thing again. Okay lang sa'yo?
Of course. I will.
Sige. So,
Thank you very much.
So,
thank you, everyone.
welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Rex, for your precious wisdom and unselfishness. Thank you very much.
Hope to see you in Dubai one of these days. You know ba, we were supposed to go to Dubai yung ang friend ko, yung mga tao dyan sa Lulu hypermarkets, ang dami niyang tao ron. Kasi I think Lulu is one of the biggest chains dyan.
That is true. Famous.
Yes, like, ano yan, mga Indiano may-ari niyan eh. We were supposed to be visit, but one of these days we will meet in Dubai.
Please do. Search it on John. Come to Dubai. I'll tour you around.
Okay, so thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you once again.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.